One question we've had come up is how do you do lighting for a product shot where you have the kind of infinite white background? Let's have a look. Now in this case we have a little Xiaomi Yi action cam, kind of a GoPro competitor. Nice little action cam, actually. We'll look at that in more detail in the future. And we just have it on this white background. What do you need? First of all, this is what I normally have heard called Foamcore. It is sort of poster board with foam in the middle and then a ply of white on the top and another ply on the back. You can buy it in lots of different colors. In this particular case, I'm using white because that's the look I want. In terms of lighting, what I have here is an Aputure Light Storm COB 120T, which is a light that we actually reviewed fairly recently here. And I have it boomed here on a Sentry stand. To counterbalance the weight, I have a sandbag hanging from the other side of the boom here, just to kind of, again, even things out. And of course, we've got plenty of sandbags down on the base. You want to make sure this thing's stable. You don't want it tipping over and lose your, $600 light in the process. The nice thing about the Aputure COB 120T is that it has a receiver here for an umbrella. So you can put the umbrella on here, and that's key to getting this look, because what you really, really need is very, very soft light so that you don't have really heavy shadows. And an umbrella is nice here because this is less than a meter away. This is probably half to 2/3 meter, probably closer to 2/3 of a meter. But it's relatively close, and it softens the light so much that you can see here the shadows are really nice and soft, so they're not terribly distracting. So that's a pretty key point here. Now, you may not have that option. If you don't have a light like this, it could reasonably be boomed. You could also use an LED panel. For example, I have my Aputure Light Storm LS1S. You could do something very similar. You could boom it above. It doesn't have a receiver for the umbrella, but you could just put some diffusion paper over it. That won't be quite as soft because, again, the light source, or the sort of perceived source size, will be smaller. So you'll get slightly harder shadows that way. You can gang a couple of them together. That is to say, put two of them right next to each other, which effectively makes the light source larger. So that's an option as well. Now, in terms of exposure here on your camera, there are a couple things you need to get right. Of course, your white balance. If you haven't already checked out actually a pretty old episode we did on white balance, here's a link for that. And then in terms of exposure, because I have a white backdrop, if I'm using a histogram, what I want to do is pretty much just have the light down on the white backdrop and then look at my histogram here. And if I have, this light showing up as a big spike on the right-hand side, kind of in the top quarter of the overall histogram, then I know I have it right. I don't want it all the way up against the edge because then you're blowing it out and things will start to look a little funny. But if you're in that top quarter with a big spike, that's going to work really well. And you'll see here now when I put the camera in frame, that puts the black somewhere kind of in the lower quarter here. So that's actually perfect because it is a black camera, so that's exactly where we'd expect it to be. Now, one other thing that's really useful when you're doing this is sort of marking the frame. So you know exactly, while you're showing the features of a product, for example, whether or not you're in frame, because you may or may not have a monitor to do that. What I like to do is I've just got these old National Geographic magazines. I just sort of push them into the frame and then pull them out until they're just outside the frame, and then I know exactly where my borders are, and I can more easily keep the product within those borders. So just while I'm watching the monitor here, push them in, pull them out until they're no longer visible. And I do that on each side. So now when I've got that done, I can see exactly what are the borders that I need to stay within to keep my product within the shot. One other consideration, if you do have a product with a shiny surface, maybe a lens or maybe a screen or something like that, you may need to keep yourself aware of that and see how that's showing on camera, because you may want that to reflect the light and you may not want it to reflect the light, depending on the look you're going for. If it's reflecting the light, you'll get, if you've got nice diffusion like this, you'll get a nice kind of creamy look, and that can be kind of cool. If you don't want that, just change the angle a little bit and you can tell on your monitor really quickly as to whether or not that's going to be a problem for the look you're going for. Now, one question I know I'm going to get is, what settings should I use on my camera? Well, that's why there are settings on your camera. I can tell you what I'm using here. It may or may not fit your particular situation because the power of your light may be different. Camera may be a little different. So this is what I'm getting here. This is a fairly powerful light. Keep that in mind. Going through diffusion. So my settings that it's showing here on this light meter are shutter speed of 1/60th of a second, ISO 250, the aperture 4.0. So use that as a starting point, but then use your histogram here to kind of tune in the look you want. Again, keeping that big spike of the white, if you're using a white backdrop, in the upper quarter of to the right on your histogram. So there are some thoughts on how to get a product shot that looks something like this. I hope that was helpful for you. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave those down below. And if you've not already subscribed, make sure you do that. And we'll be sure to get you more great videos on how to improve your lighting and sound for video. Talk to you soon.